Hi, and welcome to Full Circle. I'm Emily Wilmson, and we're here today to talk about nature in the city. I have with me Bruce Hendy, who's our Chief Sustainability Officer. Welcome, Bruce.
Hi, Emily.
And I have Lindsay X, who's a Senior Environmental Planner with the city. Welcome, Lindsay.
Thank you.
And we're here to talk about nature in the city. What is nature in the city? Who wants to take that first?
Nature, as we develop our community, I think over the last 50, 75 years, we've developed Fort Collins, and it's actually now over 100 years old, but as we've begun to develop it, we've developed policies now that really are around creating a compact community. And there's good sustainable reasons for that. Those have to do with not having sprawl, not delivering utilities outside of the city, and not having increased carbon emissions. But the challenge that we face is as we develop a more dense compact core, the potential exists that we will create all high-density urban development, and we will forget about those things that really are what I consider to be a great value to our community, which are those nature areas. When you travel around the world, you see other communities that have been developed, and they don't always protect that. And I really have a strong feeling that when we develop our community and we look at the future of our community, protecting those great places is a fundamental aspect of who we are. It's part of our DNA as a city, is protecting, having access to nature. When I first moved here many years ago, one of the things that I could always say was, in 10 minutes in any direction, I could get to nature. One of the goals that we're working on through Nature in the City is to kind of make sure that we keep that same spirit alive and we keep those natural areas alive. And I think that's an important aspect of why we're doing nature in the city. So while we develop the compact core, we're also saying at the same time, let's make sure that we don't leave nature behind and that we do protect those values that I think we've all come to enjoy. That's the fundamental reason why I think we're doing it.
Okay, so are we developing a strategic plan around nature in the city, or what is it, Lindsay, that we're talking about here?
Yeah, we're working over the next 15 months, so beginning last January into spring of next year, to do first an inventory and assessment. Where are we at? What are our challenges? You know, Bruce mentioned this 10-minute walk. How close are we right now to having that? What do we need to do to get there? And we are taking a triple bottom line approach to that inventory analysis, and we can talk more about what we mean by that. And then the strategic plan will come from that inventory and analysis. So we'll be translating the values and the needs that we've heard from the communities into policy and direction, and we'll be implementing that next spring.
Okay, so I know we're still in the investigative stages here, but what do we mean when we're talking, generally speaking, about nature in the city? Do we mean 10 minutes within 10 minutes of a park, or a wildlife experience, or what what are the types of things we're talking about?
There's a whole range of experiences that people prefer and think of when we say nature. So if I'm a 3-year-old child, or if I'm a mom with a child, sometimes that's in my own backyard, or that's just in the open space that's right in my neighborhood. For other folks, we want more of a wild-like experience, and so we go to the Poudre River. For some of our young farmers in our community, going into a community garden or an urban farm is that experience with nature. And so we really do have, and we've heard from the community that there's a wide range of places that they consider to be nature.
Okay, anything to add on that front, Bruce?
Yeah, I think I'd like to kind of build a little bit on a statement I made right at the start regarding the values of our community and why that's important. You know, I think there's a fundamental aspect of being in touch with nature, that when we talk about being in the backyard, we talk about those other opportunities. There's a therapeutic aspect to it. There's a part that brings you closer to nature and gives you peace, and I think those are fundamental to a great community. And as Lindsay talks about those closeness, those variety of spaces, to me there's something that's inherently great about nature that we do lose in highly compact communities if we're not aware of this. So I guess that's really my add-on to that comment.
So I think in some of your materials you were saying that according to the 2010 U.S. Census, almost 80% of people in the U.S. live in an urban setting. Do we consider Fort Collins to be urban? I mean, we're a small city, but do we tend to have more city attributes than we do natural attributes?
You know, I think we've moved from, and we're moving from small town feel to small city feel. And I do think we now consider ourselves to be a small city as opposed to a small town. And So even more of a reason why nature in the city matters. You know, if we are a city and we're growing as a city and we grow at a 2% growth rate over the next 20 years, that's going to fundamentally change us. We're going to go from like 150,000 people to potentially 250,000 people. That truly is a city, right? I mean, I think that's something that we have to be aware of and think about as we're moving forward. So that's why this proactive effort.
And in support of that, I think one of the things that we continually hear from folks that we're talking to out in the community about this project is, even though we are transitioning from that smaller town to a smaller city, folks really want to preserve that small town feel. So nature is a great way for us to have that small town feel still in our community.
So when you're downtown, or in largely industrial area, or where there's mostly commerce and a lot of employment, how do you find that natural part, or how do you, what is it that this strategic plan might look at to get you something like that?
I think there's kind of at least two things that I would think about. So first, we already have a lot of great nature downtown. We have our parks, we have access to the Poudre River, and so we've been very thoughtful in how we've developed as a community already. And it's because of that we're able to work on something like this project. So the other aspect of that is, as redevelopment occurs, one of the things we're asking right now is, in new multifamily developments and higher dense developments, do we need to preserve more open space in those developments or in the neighborhood of that development so that we can have that kind of access downtown?
So it could be a park, it could be open space, it could be natural area, it could be any, okay.
It could be a community garden.
There's an interesting aspect of it that really kind of dovetails with our stormwater program. As probably most people have seen, we have a lot of stormwater conveyance and a lot of stormwater ponds. And when you look at urban infill development in the downtown areas, those become linkages. And I think the study that we're doing right now is looking at all of those biodiversity aspects that kind of, on the one hand, identifies links, identifies islands, identifies major areas. And then the kind of hope for this really is to piece all of those together, including our downtown area, which you started with. And the Poudre River, of course, is within 5-minute walk distance, is one of our biggest linkages.
Right, so it's not just the quality of the individual spaces, it's about connectivity throughout the community.
Right.
Okay, great. So you said you had collected a little bit of data already about what's happening out there. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we've built on data that's already been collected as well. So Larimer County just finished a study back in 2012 that was called Plug Into Nature. And it was really focused on getting kids out into nature and assessing that better. And so many parents said that they felt like they had a really strong connection and their children had a really strong connection to nature, but that the biggest barrier for them to accessing nature as much as they was time, which isn't a surprise. We're hearing that throughout our process as well. And so that's one of the impetus for the project, is if you can have nature closer to home, then you have more time to enjoy it when you're there.
Okay, and speaking of time, where are you in the process for developing this strategic plan? What's the timeline? When do you expect this to be complete? When do people have a chance to give you some input?
Well, the input is throughout the process. Right now, we do have a Wikimap open. If you go to our website, you can see that, where you can tell us where you access nature in the community. Are there any barriers to accessing nature? And we're also meeting with numerous stakeholder groups. So if your stakeholder group wants to meet with us, we're more than happy to meet with you too, to learn more about what you value about nature. But the overall project timeline is inventory and assessment. That's kind of our phase 1. That will go until early fall. And then the strategic plan will be developing this fall, with taking it to council for adoption, either in December or January. And then we'll begin working on design guidelines and other ways to implement the policies and implementation actions in the plan next spring.
So is this pretty cutting edge, or are there other cities out there that have done this kind of thing?
We looked into that, and so we looked at who else in the country and across the globe are doing this work, and we found 12 other communities that are approaching this in some way. 2, which I would see as sort of some of the leaders in this group, are Vancouver and New York City. So Vancouver has set a goal of a 5-minute walk to an open space within their community, and New York City has set a goal of a 10-minute walk to a park for all their residences. So, but the thing that I think makes our project unique is by taking that triple bottom line approach, we're the only ones that are bringing in the economic component. We want to make sure that we understand what this will cost as well as what the value is from a financial perspective. So we've been working with economic health to figure out how does the value of nature translate in our community through property prices or through rental value, et cetera.
And you had said earlier you had done a triple bottom line analysis on this. So how does social sustainability fit into that as well?
Social sustainability is huge with this project because, as Bruce mentioned earlier, a significant aspect of nature in our community are all the public health benefits and all the other social benefits, the therapeutic benefits of accessing nature. There was one study that came out of California of over 3,000 children that found a significant decrease in body mass index when they were in close proximity to open space. And that kind of data really supports the work that we're doing. We also have heard throughout the process that folks are really concerned in our community right now about affordable housing and housing affordability. And so how do we balance out access to nature with all these other goals that we have as a community? So we're working on that as well.
Okay, great. So Bruce, in general, picking up on where Lindsay left off, how does nature in the city fit into the city's overall sustainability goals?
You know, I think it provides a lot of value in our overall sustainability goals. One is it is truly a oxygen producer, you know, which is an incredibly important part of carbon reduction. And so it aids directly in that respect. I think it also adds from a sustainability perspective. You know, we have to think about sustainability differently than just environmental. It really truly is the triple bottom line that Lindsay was just talking about. The environmental goals of it are the oxygen production, the way to aid in water retention, water use in our community. It helps with biodiversity. And the social benefits are those that enable people to feel more at peace, to have reduced body mass index, get out, walk more often, those simple kinds of things. Economically, as Lindsay was also just talking about, I think is an overall community goal where it helps our community to be economically considered to be vibrant so that people want to have their businesses here and they want to live here. Because quite often when I talk to people about why do you live in Fort Collins, and I've talked to many, many CEOs about this, they always start off with things like, because it's number one, it's a great place to raise my kids. That almost always comes up. It's a great place to be able to recreate. It's a great place to be able to be in touch with nature. You have goals that align with our company. So from the true triple bottom line sustainability perspective and fitting in with our community, it couldn't be a better fit. I think when we, you know, as you know, we're constantly ranked as one of the top 10 cities in the country. That's an incredibly important part of it. So I don't think nature in the city could be a better fit for our community than in our sustainability goals.
So how do you two experience nature when you're in Fort Collins? What are some ways that you...
Linz, you got this first one.
It really depends on the experience that I'm seeking. And that's what we hear from so many folks. So, I mean, every day I have a dog. And so I take my dog on a walk down to the Poudre River because I only live a block from it. So every day I get to walk out there and have that experience with my dog and my family. And then I also get to experience it every day in my backyard through my own garden. I get to experience it, everywhere. You know, I think that is one of the special things about Fort Collins, like Bruce said, is that you really do feel like you're in a nature community.
Yeah, and I experience it every day. I experience through either running, walking, cycling in nature. I have my own gardens that I kind of have my own little organic gardens, and I have hummingbird habitat in my backyard that I've intentionally set up, and I just don't think I would be the person I am if I didn't have that experience every day.
Yeah, right. And we raise bees and chickens at my house too, and that's my experience with nature all the time as well. And we're thankful to live in a community that supports those kinds of goals.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what are some other ways that people can get involved? They can obviously go to your wiki map, which is on the website. You'll be having more forums later this summer and into the fall. And then final decision, you said December, January. Is that when it, is there a work session scheduled for council, or is it going to go straight to city council, or do we know?
Well, we will. I don't know the exact schedule today, but I do
Yeah.
know we have a work session set up.
Okay.
And we will be bringing this to council. We'll be talking about the findings that Lindsay's managing right now and putting together. And eventually we will be coming back for a formal adoption of a plan.
Okay, great.
I think that's going to be early next year probably, right?
And there, like I said, there are numerous ways for folks to get involved. Go to the website, think of that like a portal, or folks can contact me directly at lex@fcgov.com. We're really happy to get everybody involved that wants to be involved in the project. And we really want to know more about what you value about nature and what experiences you're looking for within the city, and what do you think should be our priorities as we move forward as a community too.
And I think our website's a great access point. People can contact me too at bhendy@fcgov, and I'm happy to respond as well. So I think we're both just very involved in the concept and think it's a great opportunity for our community.
Okay, great. Any closing thoughts as we're leaving this subject? What you hope people will get out of this program once it's set up, and any?
You know, we haven't really talked about sort of the continuum of nature. We talked about it really early on. So some folks experience it in their backyard, and some folks really need a natural area. One of the outcomes of this project, which we'll be working on toward this fall, early next spring, is a set of design guidelines for how, if you want to incorporate nature more into your environment, whether that you're a developer or whether you're a homeowner or an HOA, we're going to give you tools to do that. And there'll be a range of ideas that go from really low cost to higher cost, really high social values, and a range of biodiversity values too. So we're really going to be looking all across that spectrum. So no matter where you are in our community, no matter what your personal goals are, we'll give you some tools to help incorporate nature into the urban environment too.
Okay, great. Bruce, any
Yeah,
thoughts?
I think I'd like to reemphasize a point I made a little bit earlier, that we as a community have a growth rate of 2%, which basically doubles your population every 20 years. And in 20 years, we're going to be a whole lot bigger city than we are today. And when people move here, one of the attributes that they care about is nature. If you ask a community survey, it's always ranked up there at the top. And I think for our community members to get involved and to give us their thoughts to help us to kind of move this forward, I think is really critical. It really takes all of our citizens being involved in order for us to assure that we continue to be one of those top 10 communities. So I would really encourage folks to get involved and be a part of it.
Great.
And I would just like to thank all the people that have been involved to date. We have some really great partners on this project. We've been working with Colorado State University to help us. We're sampling 172 sites across the city for what the value to species are. We've talked with over 80 private landowners and got permission from folks. We've just really appreciate everyone's time. We've got a lot of volunteers. And we're also just working with the Urban Lab through Colorado State, and we have a lot of great partners on this project, and we appreciate their time.
Great. All right. Well, thank you very much, Bruce Hendy, our
Thank
Chief
you.
Sustainability Officer, and Lindsay X, our Senior Environmental Planner, for joining us today.
Thank you.
And that's it for today's Full Circle. We'll see you next time.